Hi guys, it's Jane, and today's video is going to be something a little bit different. So I want to start not a series, but a little bit of like a subsection of Joseon with Jane, I guess, about the royal siblings of Joseon. Now the first part of this video, well actually the first video in this kind of sub playlist would be Danjong and Princess Pyeongchang. 이제 단종이랑 평창군주인데요. Now the hint with the Joseon siblings who are royal are that their stories are often super tragic. Even if you see Grand Prince Pyeongchang and his sister Princess Cheongmyeong, or even with this story today, like Danjong and Princess Pyeongchang, their stories are often really sad because in this ancient kingdom, these children just end up being pawns in the political game, and it just ends really bloodily and really horrifically. So before I go into all the blood and the gore and the sadness, I'm gonna just take the time to introduce the two characters that we are shining a spotlight on today. So first of all, Danjong. He's kind of the main character of today's video. Basically, his life was so pitiful, so much so that the Korean Times actually released an article titled Murder, Misery, and Mercy, Boy King's Life Brutally Cut Short. Just think about how dramatic that is. So his life overall was indeed super dramatic. But if we go back to when he was born Lee Hong-lee. This is actually really interesting because like I explained in my past video or one of my prior videos, I'm sure, I told you that 왕의 이름, the king's name, is almost always 외자. 외자 meaning one syllable. But some people say that he used this two-syllable name for protection purposes, like an undercover name basically, like a pen name. We won't ever really know why. It's only Danjong and Taejong who had two-syllable names because everyone else were either born with one-syllable names or they changed to one-syllable names later in life. So yeah, that's another interesting fact about Danjong. But now jumping into the really important points, he was born during King Sejong's reign. My last video was on King Sejong, the great King Sejong who created the Korean alphabet and did a lot of other great things during his reign. He was born in that time period to the current crown princess of that time, who died soon after giving birth to him. So he was the son of the crown prince during King Sejong's reign. Now, branching off from that, his dad was actually king. His dad was King Munjong. And then when his dad died, he actually became king when he was only 12. So you know, when you're 12, you can't really run a country, right? This is why I made the politics video, to kind of explain to you what would happen when a young king took the throne. You know, I think I explained this in a video about a year ago too. But basically you would have someone watching over you, like a regent. And even women could be regents. So this is like the only time when a female can sort of kind of take the power in the political scheme. So in Danjong's case, when he became king, since he was so little, just a little kid, the governing of the country actually fell out of his hands to the chief state counselor and left state counselor. Go back and watch my video if you don't know who those two people are, because I explained it in quite a lot of depth. And then Princess Gyeonghae, who was his sister, also acted as his guardian. So Princess Gyeonghae is also known as Princess Pyeongchang, and I'll be jumping into that later. In 1453, the government was actually overthrown in a coup led by Danjong's uncle, Grand Prince Suyang, who would end up becoming King Sejong when the coup was successful. Not King Sejong, don't get it confused. King Sejo, there's Sejo and then there's Sejong. And in this case, it's Sejo. So yeah, the little king was overthrown in a coup and then he was forced to abdicate. You know, at this point, it's okay. It could happen, you know. He's not getting killed or beheaded or anything. But then, you know, this wasn't enough, obviously, because he was a threat. He was a possible male heir, blood of the royal family. So he was demoted and then he was exiled. And then his wife, it's really weird to think that this little kid already has a wife. But, you know, that's how it worked back then. So his wife was also kicked out of the palace after losing her status as Queen Dowager. And of course, this all happened again because of adults just trying to put him back on the throne. So at first, actually, King Sejo, being this guy's family, was like, you know, I don't really want to kill him, you know, because he's my nephew. But then as Danjong grew older, of course, he became paranoid. He's like, oh, this kid is growing up and I might lose my position to him. And therefore, he perceived him as a threat. And then in November 1957, Danjong was put to death under order of the king. Yeah, and at this point, let's talk about his sister, Princess Gyeonghae. Like I said, she's more commonly known to Koreans by her childhood name, which is Princess Pyeongchang. Now, an interesting point here is that Joseon princesses, I think I mentioned this in my Joseon Dynasty vocabulary video, but before they got married and after they got married, their lives were very distinctly different. So when they were unmarried, they would be called 공주 아기씨, 아기씨, 애기씨, 아씨. There are a lot of different variations to call someone of a high rank, but for 공주, which is princess, she would always be called 아기씨, not 아가씨, 아기씨. And then after she got married, she would be called 공주자가. And then also her name would change. So before she got married, Princess Gyeonghae was known as Princess Pyeongchang, but then after she got married, her new name became Gyeonghae. So yeah, she was a Joseon princess and she was the eldest daughter of King Bunjong and therefore her little brother Danjong's fully related older sister. So yeah, they are 100% siblings. And then now she, like her brother, was also in constant danger during this time period, so much to the point that she was actually sent away from the palace for some point during her childhood in order for her own safety. And then in January 1450, when she was 14, which is so young because that's younger than me, she married Jeongchong of the Haeju clan and was granted the title of Princess Gyeonghae. So she got married fairly young. And then, unfortunately, she did end up participating in the coup to put her brother back in power, but of course this ended badly for her brother because he ended up being killed. And as a result of this, she also suffered because her husband was banished and then she, fell ill. But still, Sejong, because she was a woman, she wasn't really a threat to him, so he still tried to take after his niece and he sent her a servant. And yeah, he tried to care for her, but then she was pregnant at the time. So King Sejong was here feeling the threat again. So he told her, if you give birth to a son, then I'm gonna kill your son. So that's what he told her, which is so toxic, but that's what happened. But then his wife, Queen Jeonghee, made it so that the child would be able to survive no matter what sex the baby was. So basically she deceived Sejong, which is a big no-no since you don't just go behind the king's back, but still that's pretty commendable because what did that baby do wrong, You can't just kill a baby just because it's a guy, So yeah, the princess ended up having a son in exile who they actually dressed up as a female to raise in court, which is funny, I feel like that's something a lot of people think would only happen in like sageuk and historical dramas, but yeah, it did happen in this case. And then in 1461, her husband rebelled against the king, and then he was executed by slicing up all his body parts, which is where all the gore comes in. And then Princess Gyeonghae was judged guilty by association, and then she became a slave. Although later the queen did intervene again to help her restore her status, both these siblings' lives were very, they were born princes and princesses, but then they ended up slaves and one of them ended up dead. So it really shows how if you're born as a woman in the Joseon Dynasty, you have really no say over your future. And then just because you're born as the son of the king doesn't ensure that everything will just flow the way you want it to. So let's all be thankful that we're born in this century and go on with our lives happily and thankfully. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.